What's up, Warriors fans, and welcome back to Warriors Latest. As always, I am your host, Max Arizin. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you enjoyed the show today, as I do post new Warriors videos daily, and it does help the channel continue to grow as the season moves along. Now, I gotta say, last night was you know what? Outside of those horrendously ugly jerseys the Dubs wore, last night was a great game. The Dubs controlled it from start to finish. They didn't let the Jazz take advantage of them using their size, and you know what? The entire team really got it done. Now, we saw through all four quarters, the Dubs were in complete control. And I felt like this was the first time I'd seen that all season, where they're going up against a bad team who they should have complete control over the entire game. And for the first time, they did, especially after that bad loss on Friday against the Trailblazers. I was really happy to see the Warriors completely take care of business on their home court, especially as they go into Wednesday's game against the Rockets. Now, looking at the numbers, Steph had 31. I like the fact that he was able to get it done, no problem. Yeah, he didn't have to get 40, but that's the important part. Now, looking at the rest of the box score, I do like that they really limited what their big man can do in both Kyle Filipowski as well as Lauri Markkanen and Justin Nurkic. I did like that Quentin Post played a legitimate amount of minutes at 28, but he only got 9 points. I feel like he should get the ball a little more and at least stop shooting as many threes. Look, I get it. You want your big man to space the floor and shoot threes, but you got to be better than 3 for 8, and you got to take a few more shots from the interior to at least try to show that you have an inside game. Because if you just have an outside game, it's just they know they can bully you in the post, and they know they can take advantage and get a number of rebounds over you. Because looking at it, he only had 4 rebounds and 5 assists. The 5 assists, great job. I really do appreciate that from our center, but I need a little more when it comes to being a starting center. I need something like a guy who can be reliable in the post. If you need him to get 20, he can go out and get 20 on a consistent basis. But as of right now, Quentin Post, still a lot to be desired. Now, the other good news is Jimmy was solid. We also got a solid game from Moses Moody. And again, Pods was inconsistent. Will Richard didn't really give us much. Buddy Hield surprisingly gave us 20. And I think that's going to be a good selling point moving forward if he gives you 20 every once in a while as he becomes a trade piece come the new year and trades really start to pick up in the beginning of January. Unless they're trading Pods, I don't really see any trade happening just yet. But Pods sell high consistently inconsistent consistency is going to do well for the Warriors when they realize, all right, we like this guy, but he's just not part of our short-term future where we're trying to win an NBA championship. Moving him for a piece that really fills a void for the team is going to be better than keeping him around and having to deal with contract extension negotiations down the road. So I still see them trading him along with the rest of the young core to really shore up that veteran presence and really chase a championship come January, February, March, April, May, and then into June, and then into next season. So I do like that, and I do like that they were able to really take care of business. Now, looking at the rest of the team, nobody really did all that much. Moses Moody had 17 shots. Jimmy only was 8 for 11. So I do like that he's efficient. We're starting to see playoff Jimmy, him becoming more efficient. He's not taking as many shots, but if you need him to take his shots, he's doing it at a high percentage clip, which I do like, because you can have those nights where Steph is going to do a lot of the work and the rest of the team isn't. You need that secondary scorer like Jimmy Butler who can be that guy that takes over the game to help as that number 2 guy next to Steph. Now, again, I still believe they do need a third scorer. That's an offensive force, but they're not going to get that third scorer in the time being. Though I do think they need to do what they can to create roster spaces for guys that can play. Because at this point, DeAnthony Melton being on the injured list, it's gotten a little too long. We're almost into December, and he still hasn't played his first game. That, at this point, it's unacceptable. The Warriors are still treading water, and yes, they were predicted to do well at the beginning of the season, but they've been treading water for most of the time, and they can't be treading water going into January. Because if they're treading water going into January, the exact thing Draymond said he didn't want to happen has happened. Because they're going to be playing from behind, they're going to be playing behind the eight ball, and they're going to have to play like it's a playoff game every single night from January all the way to April, and then all the way through the end of April, May, and June if they make it that far. So they need to do something to find a way to, find a way to make the team more feasible and more cohesive as a unit in terms of just making the lineup more organic. Look, Quentin Post is great, but he still hasn't shown his fullest potential. I feel like there's still some inconsistencies with his minutes, and with Al Horford out, he can get that consistency, but it's up to him to take those next steps. Luckily, we do have some good news, and that good news is that this whole Domantas Sabonis to the Dubs rumors are starting to gain some real traction. And right now, nothing's going to happen and nothing is imminent. And that's mostly because Domantas is out for the next few weeks with an injured, I believe it's MCL, or it's a knee injury, but it's not the worst. It's not the worst knee injury. It's not like he didn't tear anything or anything like that. It's just like a contusion, something like that. He's out for the next 4 to 6 weeks. But I think that plays well for the Warriors because one, the Kings are they're going full rebuild. They've accepted the fact that, all right, we went for it. We got Russ. We got DeRozan. We got Zach LaVine. We got Keon Clark. We got Keegan Murray. We got Sabonis. And they basically stumbled out of the gate really, really badly. And they realized, you know what, this isn't going to work. So they're going to do a full fire sale. Unfortunately, because Domantas is injured right now, they can't trade him anytime soon because no team is going to be interested in an injured center, especially with the injury that he has. Luckily for the Warriors, though, the main piece of any Sabonis trade is going to be Jonathan Kuminga to go along with Moses Moody and Buddy Hield. And in that trade, that can't happen until January when Kuminga becomes trade eligible and Sabonis will likely be back for his injury. Now, I do anticipate this trade happening. If they're both healthy, I do anticipate this trade happening immediately once Kuminga becomes trade eligible, whether that be the 15th of January or a few days later or within that 3-week period between when he becomes trade eligible and the trade deadline. I do see that happening sooner rather than later, though, because the Warriors, again, don't want to fall behind in the new year. And it's fairly obvious that they have an issue in the middle. They can't get those rebounds. They can't compete with those stronger big men, even though Quentin Post has done a good job. They can't do it, and they can't keep putting Draymond in the middle because it's just going to keep them behind the eight ball, and then they're going to be constantly chasing the rest of the West from behind. And that lead or that differential between, say, the top 3 seed and, say, the 7th or 8th seed is just going to grow larger and larger and larger. And to be honest, the Warriors don't want that to happen. I don't want that to happen. You don't want to see that happening. So I am very anticipatory, even though if that's not a real word, that they will make this trade as soon as Kuminga becomes trade eligible. But speaking of Draymond, we have to talk about something important that happened over this weekend, and that is the list that Kenyon Martin released of the 200 power forwards that are better than Draymond Green. And you know what this reminded me of? This reminded me of a moment a couple years ago when J.J. Redick's on ESPN, and he called out all the OG players, calling them plumbers. Like you drop Kyrie Irving into the 50s and 60s, and he would dominate because he would be playing against plumbers and firemen. And this is just a word to the less talented. The less talented will always tear down the more talented to make a name for themselves. Now, Draymond Green was the 35th overall pick in the 2012 draft. He was a 4-year senior out of Michigan State. And as the 35th pick, you weren't expected to do that much. And coming into a team like the Warriors that had an established all-star at the power forward slot in David Lee, The expectations for him were that he was going to fizzle out of the league as soon as his contract expired. That didn't happen. Now, since coming into the league, Draymond, let me look this up, because Draymond has more accolades than Kenyon Martin could ever dream of. Now, he's a four-time champion, Defensive Player of the Year, multi-time Defensive All-First Team. I believe, let's see, four-time All-Star, five-time All-Defensive First Team, including All-Defensive First Team selection last year, four times All-Defensive First or Second Team selection, as well as the NBA Steals Leader in 2017, Big Ten Player of the Year, Male Athlete of the Year, Big Ten Tournament Most Outstanding Player of the Year, All-NBA Second Team, All-NBA Third Team, as well as a four-time All-Star, which I mentioned. Now, compare that to Kenyon Martin. Kenyon Martin was the first overall pick in 2000 and a one-time All-Star in 2004 and made the NBA Finals twice with the Nets in 2002 and 2003. That is the entirety of his accolades. So, as the saying goes, yes, I saw the list. There are a lot of good power forwards on there, but here's the difference. Draymond will make the Hall of Fame. Kenyon Martin will never sniff the Hall of Fame, and those are facts. Like, you could argue, he doesn't have the offensive numbers, but his defensive numbers speak for themselves. Draymond, remember this. Back in 2014, when the Warriors dynasty just got started, yes, they changed over from Mark Jackson to Steve Kerr. That was the first big change, but there was no major roster change that was made to the existing roster from the 13-14 team to the 14-15 team. There was only one decision that was made on that 14-15 team, and that was swapping in Draymond Green for David Lee in the starting lineup. And that's it. And that led to one of the best Warriors seasons they had in the 21st century. Now, it wasn't better than 73-9, but 67-15 is pretty darn good in my book. And the main reason that happened was because Draymond in the starting lineup allowed Steph to go from Stephen Curry to Steph Curry and really make that magic happen. So, you know what? Kenyon Martin, eat your heart out, because the less talented will always try and tear down the more talented to make a name for themselves. But bottom line is, yes, Draymond still is that guy. He is a Hall of Famer. Yes, the Jazz were a good bounce-back win. Yes, Sabonis will likely become a Warrior come the new year, but you got to focus on the next game. And the next game is against the Rockets. And luckily for the Warriors, the Rockets are going to be without Kevin Durant. I think that's going to play well for the Warriors, as they don't have to deal with such a dominant scorer in KD. Now, yes, they are still a very large team and are a force to be dealt with, but they're not as strong without Kevin Durant. Now, this is going to play well because the Warriors can make a statement win against the Rockets. Now, if they beat them without Kevin Durant, yeah, we get that. That's not as good as beating them with Kevin Durant, but the Rockets overall have a very, very, very strong team. And if you could beat that strong team without Kevin Durant, the next time you see them with Kevin Durant, you already know what they're bringing at you, and Kevin Durant's just an extra scoring force. And on top of that, you already know how to guard Kevin Durant, as he was with the team for a full 3 years. So you know how to guard him. So if they could beat him without Kevin Durant, I am very confident they can beat him with Kevin Durant. And it's another statement win that the Warriors put on the league and say, hey, we may be treading water now, but we know how to beat those very good teams. Now, that's all we have today for Warriors Latest. As always, if you enjoyed the show today, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And if you have any ideas on what a trade would look like for Domantas Sabonis, like outside of, say, the Kuminga, Buddy Hield, and Moses Moody trade idea, feel free to comment below, as I love hearing your ideas. And as always, go Dubs.